Being sensitive is not a flaw, it is a form of heightened perception. Perhaps your entire life, you have grown used to hearing people say that you are too weak, too emotional, or that you overthink everything. People tell you to be stronger, colder, and to stop letting everything affect your emotions so deeply. And slowly, you begin to believe that there is something wrong inside you. But the truth is, maybe you were never weak at all. Maybe you simply experience the world on a much deeper level than most people do. While others casually move past emotions, words, or the atmosphere around them, your mind absorbs almost everything. You notice the smallest changes in someone's eyes, the shift in their tone of voice, the unusual silence, or even the sadness they try so hard to hide. And because you feel so much, you naturally get hurt more easily. But that does not make you less valuable. Sometimes, the people who cry the easiest are also the ones who experience life in the most genuine way. What makes sensitive people feel exhausted is not that they are more fragile than others, but that their brains are processing far too much information at once. Imagine the human brain as a camera. Most people experience the world in a normal resolution, just enough to function and react quickly. But for highly sensitive people, the brain works more like an 8K camera, capturing every tiny detail with incredible intensity. They do not just see what is happening. They also feel the energy, atmosphere, and emotions hidden beneath it. A small sigh, an unusual look, or even the slightest change in someone's tone of voice can stay in their mind for the entire day. While other people can easily brush things aside and move on with life, sensitive people absorb almost everything around them. And that is why they become emotionally drained more easily. But it is also why they notice things that many others never even realize exist. There is something that very few people truly understand about sensitive individuals. They do not just notice other people's emotions. They almost feel them inside their own bodies. When someone is sad, they feel heavy inside as well. When they walk into a room filled with tension, they immediately feel uncomfortable, even before a single word is spoken. That is why many sensitive people often feel emotionally exhausted after spending too much time around negative people. Their minds work like emotional sponges, constantly absorbing the energy around them without being able to automatically shut it out like most people can. And sometimes, that is exactly what makes them cry more easily, get hurt more deeply, and feel as though they are somehow different. But the truth is, the world is becoming more emotionally numb every single day, which may be why people who can still feel things deeply are becoming incredibly rare. If you have ever felt too sensitive compared to others, leave a comment below. You may realize that you were never truly alone after all. Many sensitive people blame themselves because they tend to overthink before making decisions. They take longer to reply to messages, hesitate during conversations, and often replay situations in their minds long after they are already over. But maybe the problem is not that you are weak or indecisive. Maybe your brain is simply processing information on a much deeper level. While many people react based only on temporary emotions, your mind unconsciously connects everything to past memories, predicts future consequences, and tries to understand the true meaning behind every word. That is why sensitive people often struggle with overthinking. But that same ability to think deeply is also what allows them to understand people better, see life more profoundly, and notice things that others usually miss. Sometimes, true maturity does not belong to the person who reacts the fastest, but to the person who understands their own emotions the most. Perhaps the most painful thing for many sensitive people is not that their emotions are too intense, but that they have spent so many years trying to hide who they truly are. They pretend to be cold so they will not be seen as weak. They stay silent when they are hurt. They get used to saying, "I'm fine," even when they are completely exhausted inside. And over time, they begin to believe that in order to be loved, they must become less emotional. But the truth is, You cannot heal yourself by rejecting who you are. A flower can never grow if it keeps trying to turn itself into a stone. Sensitive people may be more vulnerable to the harshness of this world, but they are also the ones who love more deeply, empathize more sincerely, and notice the beauty of life more clearly than others. Sometimes, the thing that needs to change is not your heart, but the environment that constantly forces you to live in defense mode. Perhaps never before in human history have people lived surrounded by so much noise and stimulation. Phones constantly vibrate, social media endlessly pulls at our attention, and every single day we are flooded with thousands of emotions, pieces of information, and invisible pressures. But the problem is, the brain of a sensitive person was never designed to handle this much stimulation for such a long time. That is why they often feel drained after being in crowded places, feel the urge to disappear from social media, or become completely mentally exhausted after just a few stressful days. Many people assume they are simply too weak to adapt to the modern world. But the truth is, their nervous system is being overloaded every single day. And sometimes, the desire to be alone is not a sign of rejecting the world. It is simply a brain that desperately needs rest after absorbing too much all at once. Society constantly teaches us that if we want to be strong, we need to become less emotional. We are told to be colder, more detached, and to learn how to stop caring so much. But perhaps the most dangerous thing is not feeling too deeply. It is slowly becoming emotionally numb just to survive. Sensitive people often force themselves to endure toxic environments simply to prove that they are normal. But a soul that is always in defense mode will eventually be left with nothing but exhaustion. The truth is, you do not need to transform yourself into a completely different person just to be accepted. You simply need to learn how to protect your energy, set boundaries with the things that hurt you, and give yourself permission to rest without feeling guilty. And maybe the sensitivity you have spent your whole life trying to hide is actually the most beautiful part of who you are. If you have ever felt too sensitive in this world, leave a comment below and do not forget to like the video. There is something strangely true about sensitive people. They are often the ones who have suffered the most in silence. People only see their tears, but they do not see all the moments they tried to hold everything inside. Sensitive people feel pain more deeply than others, but because of that, they also learn how to empathize, love, and understand others on a very rare level. Someone who is emotionally numb may appear strong on the outside, but sometimes it takes incredible courage to keep a soft heart in a world that grows colder every day. Sensitive people may be more easily hurt, but they are also the ones who bring the most warmth to others. And perhaps true strength is not about never crying, but about still being able to feel, even after life has hurt you so many times. Perhaps for many years, you have believed that life would be easier if you were just a little less emotional. If you were colder, stronger, and no longer hurt by small things so easily. But the more you try to become emotionally numb, the more disconnected you begin to feel from yourself. Because sensitivity was never something that needed to be removed. It simply needed to be understood and protected in the right way. Sensitive people are not meant to live surrounded by constant noise, toxic relationships, or environments that force them to stay in survival mode all the time. When placed in the right environment, they do not just heal themselves. They also have the ability to bring healing to many other people around them. And perhaps the greatest gift sensitive people have is their ability to make others feel truly understood in a world that is becoming increasingly lonely. In the end, perhaps the most important thing is not learning how to become less emotional, but learning how to stop hating the sensitive part of yourself. This world may continue to become faster, colder, and more emotionally numb every single day. But even in the middle of all that, the world still needs people who can empathize, who can still be deeply moved, and who can feel the pain of others instead of simply ignoring it. Maybe sensitivity makes you feel more exhausted than most people, but it also gives your heart a much deeper understanding of life. And perhaps the very thing you once saw as your greatest weakness is actually the most beautiful thing about you. Because sometimes, the people who cry the easiest are also the ones who love the most sincerely. If you enjoy content about psychology, human emotions, and emotional healing, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and join us for the next videos ahead.